Shocking discovery. Officers burned a black woman's passport, unveiling her as the Attorney General of Maplewood. Alicia Thompson stepped into the glow of the diner's neon sign, exhaustion clinging to her like a thick fog. The weight of her two spirited children, Jamal and Mia, pushed her through the door every evening. Just another night as a waitress in the heart of Maplewood, where camaraderie thrived amidst the clatter of dishes and the rich aroma of coffee. But that Friday night, something shifted in the air. A collective murmur rippled through the community that would forever alter the fabric of their lives. As she wiped down tables, the news spread like wildfire. The police had mistakenly burned her passport during a routine check, announcing their blunder as the community gasped in disbelief. The thought of her identity being reduced to ashes struck her hard. Pain twisted in her chest. This was more than just a document. It was a key to opportunities, the promise of a better future for her children. At that moment, Alicia felt a line drawn in the sand, dividing support from scorn. Her thoughts spun wildly, echoing the sincerity and love she poured into her children's dreams. She often imagined them stepping into futures far brighter than her own, free from barriers and prejudice. Yet that illusion now lay charred and smoking. Anxiety tightened around her throat, as she realized the very system meant to protect them had betrayed her. A small group of diners huddled together, their faces a mix of sympathy and anger. "Did you hear what they did to that woman?" they whispered, voices trembling. Alicia caught snippets of conversations, some rallying around her, while others toxic with bias, muttered accusations and ugly assumptions. The emotional watering of seeds of division sprouted faster than she could comprehend. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Determination ignited a fire in Alicia. The pain twisted into an unstoppable passion. No longer just a waitress, she became a voice, a community advocate. Underneath the diner's flickering lights, conversations flourished. "We need to hold them accountable," she urged. Her fellow residents nodded, feelings shifting from sympathetic to outraged. But within the solidarity, shadows lurked. Some neighbors stayed quiet, upholding their biases, while others regarded Alicia's fight as an intrusion on their suburban peace. Days turned into anxious anticipation. Confusion and anger bubbled beneath the tense surface of what was once an idyllic small town. Backyard barbecues faded into hushed discussions, friends side-eyeing each other over fabricated divides. Would they stand united in support of justice or slip into comfortable complacency? With the town hall meeting looming, Alicia's heart raced. She had carved a path soaked in the sweat of late-night labor and maternal devotion. The moment of reckoning drew near. Her voice could either ignite a transformative spark or plunge Maplewood deeper into its comfortable division. Faced with despair or hope, Alicia clenched her fists. She would not back down. This battle was for her children and a community willing to confront its truths. Standing at the crossroads of change, the wind whispered one question. Would her courage spark a revolution or amplify the silence? Alicia stood before the town hall, its wooden doors looming like a guarded fortress. The crowd gathered was a tide of mixed emotions, some sharing her plight, others cast in the shadows of indifference. Underneath the fluorescent lights, she felt the weight of her journey pressing on her shoulders. Would her voice echo loud enough to challenge the deceit that had swallowed her identity? As she entered, Alicia glanced around, taking stock of familiar faces painted with uncertainty. Longtime friends had turned to strangers, their eyes darting away when she met their gaze. It felt like standing on a fragile bridge, all alone, trying to reach out to those who had once embraced her without question. The meeting commenced, and the room buzzed with chatter. The whispers felt like daggers, cutting deeper with each passing moment. They were discussing budgets, community events, and mundane problems, ignoring the elephant that had set fire to their world. When it was finally Alicia's turn to speak, her heart thundered in her chest, the rhythm demanding to be heard, demanding to drive the conversation. "Last week," Alicia began, her voice steady but trembling inwardly, "my passport was burned in a police error. But this isn't just about me." She took a breath, each word lingering in the air. This is about the systemic failings that allow something like this to happen. This is about accountability. Murmurs rippled through the room. Heads turned, some eyebrows raised, taps of fingers on tables. For a fleeting moment, she felt a flicker of hope. But the hesitation remained thick in the atmosphere. I'm a mother, she continued, her gaze intense. I work hard to provide for my children. I dream for them, not only of a better tomorrow in Maplewood, but of one where they can thrive without hindrance or fear. This blunder represents so much more than a burned passport. It embodies the fear that gripped my heart for my children's futures, and for every family that feels unwelcome. A silence enveloped the room. Alicia's breath hitched as she scanned the audience. Some looked on with attention. Others averted their eyes. Was she making a difference? Could this spark the change she so desperately sought? Suddenly, a familiar face emerged from the back. Warren, a once supportive neighbor whose controversial views had alienated many in the community. You call this accountability? He shouted, his voice aimed at her like a bullet. You want to blow this out of proportion. It was an accident. Alicia felt a surge of frustration. The divide swelled before her, palpable and suffocating. No, Warren, it's not just an accident. It's about a community's response to injustice. Are we simply going to flick it away like dust? Or will we stand together and demand change? There was tension simmering in the crowd. Some stood up for her now, voices rising in agreement. But others folded their arms tight, angry disbelief coloring their expressions. Alicia sensed the battle brewing. Think of the ramifications, she pressed, almost pleading. If we don't speak up now, who will for the next person who gets caught in this web of ignorance? Murmurs grew louder, shifting the dynamic within the hall from resistance to a possible rebellion. Alicia could feel the tide turning. That stirring made her stomach flip with anticipation, yet fear settled with it. Would this moment define her fighting spirit? Or would it drown in the murky waters of societal indifference? As she awaited their response, something lingered in the air, heavy but hopeful. Would the town reject complacency or embrace change? With hearts pounding and tension snaking around them, Alicia and the people of Maplewood stood on the brink of transformation. Each side disregarded a choice. The room buzzed and Alicia braced for what came next, knowing that just one voice could tip the scale. But would hers be the one that leads? Alicia's heart raced as the moment hung in the air. The crowd caught in a fragile balance between apathy and action. She felt the weight of their stares of possibility, echoing against the walls of the town hall. And then, without warning, the noise in the room shifted. Voices dropped, some in muted disbelief, others in cautious agreement. A voice broke through the murmurs. What you're saying matters, a younger woman from the back called out, her voice quivering with passion. We can't ignore it anymore. A ripple of acknowledgement passed through a section of the audience. Faces that had been downcast now lifted, sparked by her mention of togetherness. It ignited a fire of solidarity, unexpected yet welcome. Yet not everyone was swayed. This is nonsense. Warren's voice cut through the support like sharp glass. You want us to believe that one mistake defines the whole system? What about the police officers? They too can make mistakes. He leaned into his argument, emboldened by a group of nodding heads. Alicia felt the anger boiling inside her. Warren, if we let mistakes go unchallenged, we might lose more than the trust in our police force. We could lose the very fabric of our community. Her voice trembled slightly, but the conviction in her words remained fierce. A lone man in the front row stood up, gripping the edge of his chair tightly. He was a man known for his silence, a retired teacher who had once mentored many in the town. Alicia is right. I've seen too many wrongs brushed under the rug. And for too long we've stayed quiet. More voices joined in, igniting a chorus of support. We have to do something, a woman echoed. If we don't speak, who will? The tide shifted again, the collective energy swirling into something almost palpable, a wave of hope riding against the current of fear. But then another voice rang out, cutting through the newfound enthusiasm. But what can we do? We're just a small town. A man stood up, his face filled with doubt. The system is too big, too powerful. Alicia felt her throat tighten. She wanted to scream that small towns matter, that each voice counts. I'm here, aren't I? She said, meeting the naysayer's eyes boldly. If we stand together, we can bring change. Starts right here, right now. Each one of us has to be brave. The crowd shifted again, confusion mixed with determination surfacing on their faces. Alicia noticed a group of young adults whispering and nudging one another. They had been disengaged moments before but were now leaning in. "You're right," one of them said. "We used to believe we could change things, let us do it together." Their enthusiasm rippled through others, a spark igniting in those still hesitant, fear creeping away. Life filled the room as conversations grew louder, shoulders squared, fists clenched in resolve. While this was a moment of hope, Alicia couldn't shake the shadow of worries that clung to her heart. What if it wasn't enough? What if her voice, battling against discontent, faded away again? The future was uncharted, an invisible line drawn before them. Would they march forward as one community against the wrongs they saw, or slip back into the comfort of silence? As Alicia felt the crowd begin to rally around her, she realized this was a pivotal moment, the first step upon a long road ahead. But behind the surge of voices, a chilling thought pierced her mind. What unforeseen consequences might await her journey into activism? And as she prepared to guide them further into confrontation, she sensed something lurking in the shadows of their anger, something more sinister than mere indifference. Alicia took a deep breath, the electric buzz of excitement mixed with dread thrumming in her chest. The crowd was alive now, a coiled spring ready to unleash its potential, but doubt loomed like a dark cloud overhead. She couldn't let that overshadow their moment. As the hum of voices swelled, she raised her hands, quieting the room with a determined smile. "Let us channel this energy," she said, her voice strong and steady. "We need to come up with a plan, not just talk about what's wrong. What do we want? A meeting with the police? A community forum to discuss these issues openly?" She watched as heads nodded in agreement. This was it. They were ready to take the next step, to confront the very fears that bound them. A wave of proposals washed over her, some promising, others unrealistic. Friends whispered ideas, first in hushed tones before growing bold. "What about a petition?" one shouted. Another suggested a community watch. The suggestions piled up, reflecting passion but also a nagging fear of retaliation. Each voice echoed shared uncertainty, and with it, their collective courage grew. Warren's critical brow was furrowed, but even his skepticism seemed to soften, trapped between his opinions and undeniable hope. He stood quickly, hands raised in a defensive position. "But let us not assume every officer is against us," he said, his tone falling back into old patterns. "There are good ones out there who care about our community, who work hard." "Absolutely," Alicia reassured him, stepping into the light. "We can work with those who are willing to listen. But we've been too quiet for too long." She felt the warmth spread through the crowd, a shared desire for justice intertwining with their personal stories. They were no longer just a gathering. They were a movement taking root in the heart of their town. Conversations filled the room, breaths shared, stories emerging. Faces glimmered with a mix of determination and fear, hope breaking through like sunlight on a cloudy day. As the meeting grew darker, the flicker of fluorescent lights above buzzed intermittently, casting shadows across their hopes. They laid plans for a community meeting, a chance for dialogue that could spotlight both grievances and aspirations. With each idea proposed, she felt her conviction solidifying. "Are we ready to do this together?" Alicia asked, raising her voice to rally them. Enthusiastic cheers erupted, followed by a chorus of yes, echoing throughout the town hall. She smiled, heart swelling with pride. But lurking behind each yes was an underlying tension, an unspoken fear. What if their fight brought backlash? What if a confrontation only deepened the divide? As Alicia navigated through the crowd, her eyes scanned the room for signs of support and dissent alike. The growing unease crept deeper, a gnawing thought that not everyone might embrace their efforts for change. Then, the door creaked open. A tall figure stepped in, a man shrouded in shadows, his face obscured by the dim light. The chatter abruptly faded to a hush, suspicion cloaking the atmosphere once more. Alicia's heart raced anew, anticipation mingling with unease. Everyone turned to see who had entered. The tension crackled like an electric current, urgent and undeniable. Who was this unexpected visitor? What did he want? A chill went down Alicia's spine as she realized they were not just confronting a system but potentially facing a threat right there, in their midst. The man stepped forward, and she could see the edges of a badge peeking from his pocket. What was about to unfold could change everything. Alicia's breath caught in her throat as the figure stepped into the light. The badge glimmered under the harsh ceiling fixtures, catching the eyes of everyone in the room. A murmur rippled through the crowd, blending shock and concern. "Good evening," the man said, his voice low and steady. But beneath the calm facade, Alicia detected a tremor. He was a stranger, but not just a typical outsider. There was something familiar in the way he held himself, like a man used to being listened to. "I'm Officer Jones," he introduced, placing a hand over his badge, as if to signify authority. "I know you're all gathered to discuss some serious issues regarding our community and the police. I want to make it clear I'm here to listen, not to intimidate." But Alicia couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a benign visit. She studied his expression, searching for sincerity among the lines of his face. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice steady but wary, fear tightening her grip on the edge of the table nearby. "Look," he said, stepping closer, eyes scanning the room. "There's a lot of tension brewing in this town. I've heard the stories. Officers out of line, concerns about safety, and I'm not going to deny that there have been problems, but I'm here as a bridge, to see if we can resolve this before things escalate." Tentative whispers filled the air, skepticism mingling with an undercurrent of curiosity. It was unnerving how everyone hung on his words, caught between wanting to trust and needing to be cautious. Alicia felt that collective hesitation, a tightrope walk between hope and doubt. "Some of us don't feel safe in this community," Warren finally said, breaking through the uneasy silence. "Not even from the police." His candor made Alicia's heart race. This was a pivotal moment for them all. She held her breath, knowing the room was teetering on the edge. Officer Jones' gaze flickered to Warren, and for a brief moment, vulnerability crossed his face. "I understand, but change needs trust, and without conversation we're going nowhere." The weight of his words settled heavily, but Alicia noticed something else behind his determination, an urgency that screamed for resolution. "What about the incidents that have happened?" Alicia pushed, emboldened by Warren's courage. "So many people have been hurt. You really think conversation will fix everything? What can you promise us?" He hesitated, then took a deep breath. "I can promise that I will take your concerns to my superiors. I can promise that I will advocate for change." The intensity in his eyes prompted Alicia to lean in closer. This wasn't just a facade. He believed this could lead to change. As if sensing the shift in the room, a young woman near the back stood, her voice shaking. "But what happens if that trust is broken again? How can we be sure this isn't just a talk?" A wave of murmurs erupted, echoing her fear. She felt the truth behind her words reverberate off the walls like a warning bell. The patterns of mistrust in the room were palpable, like an invisible web. Before Officer Jones could respond, the door swung open again, this time hard. It hit the wall, and a group of attendees entered. Their faces were angry, eyes blazing with frustration. "What's going on here?" One shouted, arms crossed defiantly. "We're not going to let one good officer distract us from the real issues." Alicia glanced from Officer Jones to the uneasy crowd, uncertainty surging through her veins. She recognized that their moment of potential change could snap into chaos any second. How could they move forward when the past still loomed like a storm above? Before she could voice her thoughts, another voice stung the air. "Who are you really, officer? Are you on our side or theirs?" The question hung heavily, a reminder that trust was a fragile thing. Would they grasp the chance for dialogue and justice, or let the tension consume them? As Alicia's heart raced, the answer felt just beyond reach. The room crackled with disbelief. Voices climbed in volume, entwined with anger and fear, as more people filtered in, filling the space until it felt suffocating. Officer Jones stood his ground, shoulders squared, but Alicia could see the way his jaw clenched. He understood the tempest brewing around him. The young woman who had spoken earlier pressed forward, her fury boiling over. "This isn't just about a few bad apples. This is systemic. You think your badge gives you the right to come in here and play nice while our community is suffering?" Her voice quivered, fueled by pent-up frustration. Alicia's heart raced. The weight of history hung heavy in the air, the scars of broken trust echoing in every word spoken. In that moment, she felt a surge of solidarity. They didn't just want conversation, they craved accountability. Officer Jones lifted a hand, but the crowd reacted with more shouts, a tidal wave of emotions crashing against his calm exterior. "Please, just let me explain," he insisted, trying desperately to break through the chaos. "Explain what? How many lives have been ruined? How many times have we begged for change?" A burly man shouted, veins popping on his forehead. His fists were balled at his sides, and Alicia felt the tension ripple through the crowd. "Everyone deserves a chance," Officer Jones finally cried out, his voice straining against the mounting outrage. "And you all have every right to be angry. But I can't promise you something if you let conversation in." At that, a voice from the back sneered. "A conversation won't fix our wounds. We need action." Alicia took a deep breath, feeling the urgency rise within her. What if we hear him out?" she called, desperation creeping into her tone. "Maybe he can tell us what we need to hear to instigate real change." Her suggestion fell like a whisper into the deafening storm. The faces around her shifted from anger to cautious interest. Officer Jones seemed to seize the opening, stepping closer to the crowd, hands outstretched as if to invite them in. "Look, I know I'm just one person in a system that's let you down," he said, voice low yet resonant. "But if there's ever going to be a chance for healing, it has to start here. We can discuss specific grievances. I want to walk you through what I can take back to my department." Alicia could feel the unsure glances exchanged among the crowd. It was a gamble, a fragile sliver of hope amidst their darkness. Yet, everyone was teetering. Would they seize this moment or shut it down before it had a chance to blossom? Warren stepped forward, surprising Alicia. "If you're really here to listen, then let us talk. Let us lay it all on the table, every single incident, every single name. We deserve to be heard." Alicia almost felt the room shift as people nodded, tension mixing with a flicker of hope. Officer Jones met Warren's gaze, and in that instant, something began to change. An uneasy truce formed. But before they could proceed, a loud crash echoed from outside, shattering glass, shouting voices. The collective breath of the crowd hitched, panic replacing the fragile alliance they had just begun to cultivate. "What now?" someone whispered, the earlier anger morphing into fear. Alicia's heart raced again. The chaos outside threatened to swallow their fragile dialogue whole. As people rushed to the windows, she caught Officer Jones' eye. The urgency bouncing between them spoke volumes. "Whatever's happening out there, it could change everything," he said, voice steady despite the turmoil. What were they about to uncover? As the crowd pushed forward, whether to help or retaliate, Alicia felt the pulse of the moment. It was the unknown that loomed ahead, and she sensed that whatever lay beyond the door could either shatter their hopes or ignite their fight for justice. "Are we ready for whatever comes next?" Alicia murmured to herself, glancing again at Officer Jones. They were standing at the brink, and she didn't know if they would soar or fall. But she knew one thing: change was never easy. Would they dare to face the storm together? Alicia's pulse quickened as a collective gasp swept through the crowd. They were all at the windows now, eyes wide and breaths held. Outside, chaos erupted. Shadows flitted through the flickering streetlights, casting ominous shapes on the pavement. "What is happening?" Alicia whispered, the query lost in the rumble of raised voices. Officer Jones moved closer to her. "Stay back," he urged, though she could see the unease flickering in his eyes. He wasn't just a cop today. He was a man wrestling with the weight of his badge and the fear of what his next decision would lead to. The shouts grew louder, punctuated by the sound of sirens wailing in the distance. In the heart of the chaos, a figure stumbled into the light. Alicia recoiled, her heart sinking. It was a woman, her clothes torn and dirted, a frantic look in her eyes. "Help! They're coming!" she cried, her voice raw, almost breaking. Alicia felt his hand take her arm, grounding her. "Wait," he said, but it was too late. The woman's fear was palpable, flicking through the air like an electric current, igniting an instinct in Alicia that made her want to reach out. "What happened?" Alicia shouted as the woman approached, breathless and trembling. "They're hunting for someone," she gasped. "They burned her passport." "She's got to be," the woman's words faltered, glancing nervously over her shoulder as if the very shadows could spring to life. Alicia felt a chill run down her spine. Who are they looking for?" She pushed through the gathering crowd, heart racing and mind filling with questions and dread. "Jean," the woman whispered. They're looking for Jean. The attorney. The room erupted into frantic whispers, a swelling tide of anxiety. Jean, the woman known for bravely taking on cases against police misconduct, had garnered the ire of the very system at play. Officer Jones stiffened beside her. Jean is the one who exposed the corruption. He hadn't understood the extent of fear and consequence her work entailed. Yes, the woman cried, she's been targeted. They'll do everything to silence her. Alicia could feel the air thickening with urgency. This was bigger than she imagined. If Jean was out there, she was in danger. We need to help her, Alicia shouted, rallying energy from the crowd. If we don't act now, are you crazy? A voice shot back from the crowd. You think we can trust him? Someone pointed at Officer Jones, fear mingling with the collective anger that had echoed through the room. Officer Jones lifted his hands in a gesture of peace. You don't know me. I'm not the enemy, he pleaded. Alicia turned to the crowd, grappling with doubt but feeling adrenaline surge. We have a common goal. Jean's safety. It's more important than all of this, our anger, our distrust. We've fought long enough. Now we need to stand together. A flicker of understanding spread amongst them, but the divide remained. Some stepped back, others leaned in. But how can we trust him? Someone questioned, fear tainting the hopeful atmosphere. What if it means finding Jean? Alicia called, striving to ignite that last spark of unity. What if, against all odds, we join forces? Alicia glanced at Officer Jones, an unspoken understanding passing between them. Either they would be their strength or they would remain divided in fear. Let us do it, Officer Jones said quietly, resolve in his voice. Let us find her. Outside, the chaos raged on, its momentum spiraling like a wild beast with its hunters closing in. They had a choice now, to be the whispers in the shadows or the roar of a united community. But before they could act, sirens blared closer, growing louder. Do we run or do we fight? Alicia asked, turning back to the gathering mass of faces. She could feel the weight of their choices, a turning point that could redefine their future. And then, just as quickly as it had begun, their moment of decision snapped like a twig, evaporating into uncertainty. What would they choose? What happened next would resonate beyond this room, and into the heart of their community. Are we ready to take that leap? She shouted, voicing everyone's silent question as the sirens wailed. The answer wasn't clear, but it was definitely approaching fast. Alicia felt the tension in the air, electric and thick, as the sirens shrieked like a wounded animal. A collective shudder ran through the crowd. They were all in this together, but the path ahead felt dark and uncertain. Listen, Officer Jones shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. We need to split into teams. I can guide you to a safer area. We can look for Jean without drawing attention to ourselves. Alicia marveled at the determination in his voice. Trust was a fragile thread, but she could sense that some were willing to step out on it. A small group began to step forward, courage flickering in their eyes, driven by the urgency of the moment. She took a deep breath, scanning the crowd. Who's with me? She called out, trying to harness their uncertainty into purpose. A few faces in the back nodded, then stepped forward, emboldened by each other's presence. Let us go, she urged, moving toward Officer Jones. He nodded, leading the way through the crowd, the noise of apprehension melding into a singular roar. They slipped outside, the cool night air brushing against their heated skin. The street was alive with chaos. Shadows darted like unwelcome spirits, moving quickly, purposefully. Officer Jones pointed down an alley. We can avoid the main street. We should head for the old community center. It might be a safe place for Jean if she's around. I hope she's okay, Alicia murmured, her heart aching for the attorney. She felt the pressure of eyes on her, expectant, searching for direction. What if they catch her before we do? Then we won't let them. Officer Jones replied fiercely, determination etched into his features. He glanced at the group, his face a mixture of authority and vulnerability. Stick together. We'll find her. They pressed on, moving through the dense shadows of alleyways, hearts pounding, the weight of silence amplifying the dread. Hands brushed against him and Alicia could feel their fear intertwining with her own. They were in this together now, seeking hope in a night crowded with danger. Suddenly, a loud crash interrupted the stillness, echoed by panicked voices ahead. Alicia's stomach dropped, and she instinctively moved closer to Officer Jones, glancing up at him, searching for answers in his expression. "We might have found them," he whispered, scanning the scene ahead where a group of officers seemed to be confronting someone. She recognized one of them from the precinct. His face twisted with anger. The hairs on the back of her neck prickled in alarm. "We need to be careful," Officer Jones warned, his eyes assessing the situation. "If they're here, they could have dogs or backup. We can't let them see us." The woman from earlier popped into Alicia's head. Had they caught Jean? Her heart felt heavy with dread. One wrong move could send all their hopes crashing down. Alicia motioned for the group to crouch behind a dumpster, the scent of garbage mingling with the tension hanging in the air. Sweat trickled down her back as she silently prayed. "We need a plan," she murmured. "Maybe we can draw their attention away?" "Agreed," Officer Jones murmured, gathering them in with a steady look. "But we'll need speed. If we create a distraction, it might buy Jean enough time to escape." Just then, a shout echoed through the alley, carrying with it a wave of fear that felt almost tangible. Her heart raced and she recognized a familiar voice beneath the chaos, a voice she was terrified could be Jean's. "Go," Officer Jones urged. They surged toward the sound, hearts pounding, moving as one through the darkness, driven by something deeper than fear, the stirrings of genuine hope. Alicia's legs pumped hard against the pavement, pushing her closer to the chaos. Eyes narrowed, she scanned the scene ahead, adrenaline flowing like fire in her veins. But as they rounded a corner, their actions brought them face to face with a line of officers, each prepared to corner their prey. Alicia's breath caught in her throat. They had arrived at a moment where everything could change. Would they fight together or retreat, leaving Jean vulnerable? Choices lay ahead like forks in the road, waiting for them to make the next move. "Are we all in?" she shouted, rallying the group. "Are we really ready to do this?" But before anyone could answer, a gunshot rang out, ringing in the air like a thunderclap, and the night shifted dramatically, leaving them scrambling for what came next. Alicia's heart raced as the gunshot echoed through the alley. Panic surged, followed by a stunned silence that felt heavy, almost suffocating. She found herself frozen in place, eyes wide, breath shallow, barely processing the implications of what had just happened. "Move! Now!" Officer Jones shouted, his voice slicing through the shock. He grabbed Alicia's arm, pulling her forward, urging the others to follow. The fear in his eyes fueled her adrenaline, and she stumbled after him, her mind racing with thoughts of Jean. She couldn't let them take her, whatever it took. She had to save her. They ducked into another narrow alley, shadows wrapping around them like a protective cloak. But as they hurried on, the crack of glass shattered their focus behind them. Another shout echoed, a warning this time. "Get back here." Alicia flinched at the authority in the voice. She recognized it as Officer Martinez, the one who had been notorious for his heavy-handed tactics. The realization pounded in her head. What if that gunshot had been aimed at someone they cared about? "Did you hear that?" one of the group whispered, drawing closer. It sounded like "I don't know" panic. The panic roiling in Alicia's chest translated to urgency. "We have to find Jean. If they're targeting her, we can't waste any more time." With every step, determination overshadowed her fear. They turned a corner and came face to face with an open courtyard. The scent of smoke wafted through the air, mixing uncomfortably with the exhaust of nearby cars. In the center of the courtyard stood a small group of officers. Alicia's heart sank as she recognized Jean, pushed against a wall, her hands secured behind her back. The sight of her, vulnerable and alone, sent ice through Alicia's veins. "Look," she gasped, pointing urgently. "We need to create that distraction now." Officer Jones's eyes narrowed. "I'll draw their attention. You guys find another way in." No one hesitated, their resolve hardening. Alicia nodded, but her legs felt like lead. "I'll go with you," she insisted, knowing full well that every moment mattered. "We all have to act." Just then, Officer Jones turned, meeting her gaze with a fierce intensity. "Alicia, please. I can't protect you both." If they see you, she could see the fear in his eyes. And in that moment, something within her clicked. "I can't sit back. I want to let them do this." In a split second, she decided. "We go together." They exchanged a determined glance, and in that unspoken agreement, the whole group moved forward, hearts pounding as they approached the edge of the courtyard. Alicia felt the warmth of hope pushing through her fear as they inched forward into the fray. Just then, a shout erupted behind them, followed by the sound of boots pounding against the pavement. They had company. "Run!" Officer Jones shouted, his voice a mixture of order and urgency. Alicia darted forward, dragging her group with her, desperate to reach Jean before it was too late. As they drew closer, the brightness of the courtyard enveloped them, casting the scene in stark contrast. Alicia's breath quickened as she and Jones surged forward, weaving between the chaos. Could they possibly pull Jean away from the clutches of the officers? Then Alicia spotted something alarming: a man, disheveled and frantic, standing by the officers, holding something in his hand. It glinted ominously in the courtyard light. A badge? Alicia's heart sank. What if he was someone important? Could he turn the tide against them? A realization struck her hard. They had to reach Jean first. A surge of determination pulsed through her, pushing her forward despite the oncoming danger. "Together!" Alicia shouted, rallying the group. "We can do this!" But just as they reached the edge of the courtyard, the man turned, locking eyes with Alicia. She froze, her heart pounding as she recognized him. What happened next would change everything. "Stop right there!" he bellowed, a smirk playing on his lips as he took a step toward them, brandishing something that sent a chill down her spine. Would he pull the trigger again this time at them? Alicia's mind raced. Was this a moment of hope or a moment of doom? The atmosphere was heavy with tension, every heartbeat echoing the fears and hopes swimming through the crowd. Alicia squared her shoulders, her heart hammering in sync with the chaos swirling all around her. She focused on Jean trembling against the wall, and pushed through the terror clouding her mind. "Don't you dare move!" the man shouted again, that smirk still painted across his face. It felt like a taunt, like a dare. Alicia's gaze locked on Jean, and that glance conveyed all their pain, all their fight. "Stay strong," Alicia whispered, though she knew Jean could barely hear her over the murmurs of police and escalating authority. Officer Jones stepped forward, trying to act as a barrier. "Let her go," he shouted, his voice a weapon against the uncertainty that gripped them. The man looked from Officer Jones to Alicia, and confusion crossed his face. "Why are you defending her? She has nothing but trouble." The man spat, a mix of anger and incredulity in his eyes. Alicia felt her pulse quicken as the crowd shifted, strangers suddenly feeling like family. With every soul around her, a brave determination began to develop. She opened her mouth to speak. "Don't you see? This isn't just about one person. It's about all of us." Her voice rang out, steady despite her trepidation. "This isn't just about Jean. It's about the trust we've lost, the lives we're trying to protect. If you treat her like a criminal, then you treat us all like we don't matter." The tension stretched and held, a tight wire between fear and resolution. Alicia worked to validate everyone's emotions. The fear and pain were palpable, but so was determination. She stepped dangerously closer, eyes never wavering from Officer Jones and the enemy that stood in their way. "If you want to be part of this community, then you need to see us, all of us. This isn't a game. These lives are real." A murmur of agreement spread through the crowd, a swell of voices rising as solidarity fortified their resolve. They stood for each other, for their hopes, for their future. With every passing moment, it became less about her as a single voice crying out and more about them, a chorus demanding justice. "All we want is for our community to be safe, for our children," someone shouted, emboldened by Alicia's words. The energy shifted again, a wave of resolute anger that washed through the assembly. "We demand accountability." The man stepped back, uncertainty flickering like a candle about to extinguish. He glanced towards Officer Jones, uncertainty battling resolve on his face. Finally, Officer Jones took a step closer, his voice calm but firm. "You were wrong, both to treat Jean this way and to assume the community would remain silent. We are here together. You won't succeed in dividing us." Alicia's breath caught as she noticed the weight of Jones' words. They were entering uncharted territory. A small opening carved out by courage and solidarity could spell the beginning of change. And then, without warning, Officer Martinez emerged from the shadows, eyes blazing with intent. "What's going on here?" he barked, causing the crowd to instinctively waver. But Alicia could sense the shift, an undercurrent of unified strength bucking against fear. We're standing together, Alicia said, surprising herself with her boldness. We will not let you intimidate us. We will protect each other. A piercing silence enveloped the courtyard as people processed her words. The hope that blossomed might just overpower the forces of fear that had upheld the divide for too long. The crowd pulsed with a new energy wider and deeper than any single person could evoke. In that moment, Alicia had an idea. Let us take a step back. Let us show them we don't fight our battles alone. She turned to the crowd. On the count of 3, we step forward together. For Jean. For our community. The crowd nodded, tightly clutching hands, breaths held in anticipation. 1, 2, 3. Together they advanced. An unstoppable wave of righteous anger swept forward, not to lash out in violence but to stand united, powerful and resolute. As they crossed the threshold, the man stepped back, confusion morphing into disbelief. Officer Martinez faltered, caught off guard by the sheer strength of their unity. Enough! Officer Jones blared, stepping protectively beside Alicia as the cacophony of voices swelled, drowning out doubt. You will hear them. You will listen. And across those very shadows, Alicia sensed the scales had tipped. Together they had waged a battle fueled by love and resilience that no badge could quench. In unison they surged toward justice, their pulse, their power unbreakable as dawn light began to spill across the horizon. Alicia knew the fight had transformed their community forever. And through the haze of fear and uncertainty, a glimmer of hope sparked. They were no longer just individuals but a community ready to stand firm. And that's how change begins, a collective heart, beating with the rhythm of resolve and courage. Now the future of Maplewood was in their hands, waiting for them to embrace the dawn of a new chapter. You need to subscribe now to stay updated on amazing stories like this. And don't wait not even one more second to share. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and tell me in the comments how this story resonated with you. You need to share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see the power of unity. Let us inspire change together.